So, welcome to our session. We are going through life goals as well as the Impossible Prayer List. Very excited today to have Helen Granskog and Louito Edje on the line here. They will be sharing about their goals and hope you guys can get some great things out of it. Without further ado, I give you Helen Granskog.
Well, good morning. Good morning. And thank you very much just for the opportunity to come and talk to you a little bit about goals. And I don't have my slides, unfortunately, but the title of my slides was Living Life to the Full. And I think that's really what kind of these goals are designed to help me experience. And I think of a full life being able to really enjoy the things that make me happy and enjoy them and do them as often as I can. And so, just a little bit about me. Grew up in Malawi, Central Africa, just kind of run of the mill, nothing extraordinary. If anything, I think I kind of tried to blend in, right? I didn't really want to stand out, didn't really want to do a ton of extra things. Carried on through high school and was never physically active. My siblings, Atoma and Louito, were involved in the swim team in high school. My younger sister did cheerleading. I never really did any sports per se. But then after I got married around 2000, a friend of mine asked me to do an adventure race with her. And so for those of you might know, it's kind of like an 8-hour modern day Spartan race. Or, it's got adventure racing, you've got orienteering, canoeing, mountain biking, running, trail running. And so I said, okay, sure. I was a nice person. So I said, I'll do it with you. I'll be your friend. And so we did this event together. But that really sparked something in me. It sparked the athlete in me that I never knew existed. And it really sent me on this now almost 26-year journey of really just being physically active and loving my life, loving using my body and being grateful for that ability, because at the point where she had asked me to be, to join her on this adventure race, I really wasn't physically active, but my body was showing signs of that lack of activity. I was starting to, have dry heaving. I would have migraine headaches. I was not drinking water. I was not taking care of my body. And when I started being active with her naturally, I started to take care of my body. I became someone who I saw as an athlete, as a runner. And so that impacted how I live my life. I would look at myself and say, I'm a runner. So a runner doesn't drink Pepsi. A runner doesn't eat all this soda, all these sugar. A runner doesn't do all these things. And I started to really try to hone in on my habits and my behavior to really become the best athlete that I could be. And so that's kind of a little bit of where, my story is and kind of where it starts. And really have become a very goal-oriented person. I see that even though I say I wasn't very active, I do see how God has created me to be a very goal-oriented person, someone who thrives on focus, someone who thrives on having a goal to pursue, something to look forward to, something to move towards. And all of my goals really come from looking at my values and my strengths. All the goals that I have, and I look back at this in hindsight and have kind of worked on it in the last several years, but really looking at my values. And when I felt resistance in my goals, it's because I was going against my values and not living out my strengths. And so I recently took some time to dive into what my values are. My values are community, spirituality, service, fitness, family, and peace. My strengths, again, and I could see this thread, but never had language for it. All my goals come from this desire and the strength of being an achiever, consistency, being disciplined, a learner, and having a strength of harmony. And my values and my strengths are the one thread that is consistently visible throughout everything I do. And the saying I have is, how you do one thing is how you do everything. All of these values and strengths show up in some ways. Sometimes it's bigger than others, but it's always there. When I think back to what I've done, the goals I've had, and how I've been able to achieve them, I see these strengths and these values being highlighted for me to be successful in incorporating them. Now having said that, there's always room to pivot. Life happens, right? So there are times when you may not be able to do things exactly how you see them being played out, but it's being willing to pivot. So looking at these values and these strengths and really being able to live in a rhythm that allows you to succeed over time and live out your goals. And so when I stand back and I look at my goals, and looking back at who I am, a lot of my goals are physical and spiritual in nature. And again, leaning into my strengths as I live those out. And I currently have a list of about 100 goals. And I got the idea of really creating this specific list from John Goddard. And he came up with a list of 100 things, and he successfully completed everything on his list before he passed away. And so that was just a very inspiring thing for me to do. So I took my existing list and a list of goals, and I compiled them into one exhaustive list. But I have lists, I have goals broken down into different categories. Again, just coming from that perspective of really wanting to be organized and keep things in a way that is workable and manageable for me. So I have my goals broken down into adventure, right? Different adventure goals that I want to experience, endurance goals where I really push my body to the limit, the goals around, and I'll break them down into more specific specific goals, but goals around books that I want to read during a given year, or books that I want to write over the course of my life. I have things that I want to learn. I have business goals because I'm a wellness coach and a personal trainer, so I have goals around my business. I have some goals around my community and goals around my family. And so some of the different items that are on my list, again, kind of starting off with the physical, just me really wanting to be grateful and express gratitude for the ability I have. I haven't always been able to move. I haven't always been physically active. And I see people aging and getting older, and I am grateful for the ability to move the way that I do. In my work as a personal trainer, I interact with people who really don't have healthy lifestyles. They don't have the ability to maybe even walk several steps. And so for me, I'm grateful for the ability. So a lot of my physical goals come from that space of gratitude. And so some of my goals are, to complete an Ironman, to run a race with my two daughters. I have an 18-year-old and a 10-year-old, to have Girls on the Run. It's a program for middle school girls to be physically active while they learn some important life lessons. So that was a goal, to have that set up at my daughter's school. I want to complete an Ironman. I wanted to organize an event to help fundraise for an organization called World Vision that helps undeveloped countries with food and water. So I wanted to put that together. I have wild goals, being able to travel to Alaska, visit Egypt, go to Tibet. I have goals to attend different conferences. I like and follow Tony Robbins. So I have some goals around attending some of his major conferences. I want to help my daughters become disciples. I want to design fitness packages. I want to memorize the book of Ephesians. I want to learn chess, sign language, Spanish. So these are all different things that I have on my list of goals. Now that, to me, when I wrote this list, seemed very overwhelming. And for me, I can definitely come from a place of anxious striving where I want to do something now. I want to do it all now. And that was stressing me out. It's like I can't do some of these things. I don't have the time. I don't have the capacity. It's just not a good time in my life. So what has been really helpful for me is I wrote out a lifeline, right? So I started where I was, and I think I started at age, I don't know, maybe 27. And I wrote down each year till I turn 96. And I said, okay, I'm going to give myself till I turn 96 to accomplish my goals. And what's edged in stone on my list, on my timeline, is my daughter's graduations from high school and both of their graduations from college. And I don't know when they'll get married, but I have at least those benchmarks. Those are times that I know based on their current ages. And within those time frames, I know that I will be more dedicated and more busy with them. So I can only do a certain number of goals during that time frame. But really creating this timeline helped to decompress the pressure I felt to achieve my goals. So God willing, I'm healthy at 96. Maybe I'll go to Alaska then. Maybe that's my 98th birthday present. I don't know. So, but that's what helped diffuse the pressure for me. And then within that, I created a list of free goals. Because when you have a daughter going to college and another one soon to follow, you don't have a lot of money. So I said, okay, what are the free things that I can do now? And let me check those off my list. Have some satisfaction of accomplishing a goal, but not feeling the stress on the family financially to do it. So I have my goals, and now again, you have this picture, go get to Alaska, design fitness packages, run a race with my girls. That doesn't just happen. So again, leaning into my strengths as an achiever, consistency, discipline, learner, harmony, I took this and funneled it down from broad to specific, right? And looked at how do I take this larger goal and take it down to actionable steps. So my phrase is, don't eat the apple whole, right? I've got this massive goal. What are the bite-sized pieces that I can consume and engage in now that will eventually help me eat this apple, right? Put the whole thing in my mouth, I'm going to choke. But a bite, okay, what's the one thing I can do today that might help me achieve something in the future, right? So it's that bite-sized piece. So currently on my list of goals that I've been able to accomplish, I became a Christian life coach. I'm running a mastermind. I learned sign language with my daughters when they were kids, became a wellness coach, a personal trainer. Yesterday, I completed the goal of organizing a World Vision 6K. So that's the first of many to come. I've started hiking the Appalachian Trail. My bucket list is to hike the Appalachian Trail, section hike it. So we've got 3 states down. We started in 2023. I hiked that with my daughter. So these are some of the goals that I have accomplished, and I've checked off my list, put a line through them. But again, now to specific, how do I do that? Oh, thank you. How do I do that day to day? So I have several different tools that I use to help me take broad to specific. So I break my goals down into annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily, right? Because what happens in 5 years is going to start today. I can't live to 98 and go to Alaska if I'm not healthy enough to get out of bed. So what do I do today, now, so that I can ensure that happens? So I'll look at my list of goals each year and I'll say, okay, what can I do this year? My daughter's going to college. Okay, great. So that means that there's going to be a section of time I'll be busy and more focused on the family, which is totally fine. Those are the rhythms of life, right? And then maybe there's some free goals I can do in my spare time when I have that gap, that window. So each year I'm kind of looking at what are the goals on my master list. And then, okay, now what's quarterly? This quarter, my daughter's getting ready to graduate from college. So I have the 5K that I could do on my kind of offline, didn't take away from the family, but I didn't run some of the programs I normally do because I'm making sure I'm busy and available for her. So I have my quarterly goal, then my monthly. Okay, what do I need to do this month towards to move the needle? This month it was my 5K, my 6K that I did. So, okay, what do I need to do this month? Okay, now weekly. What do I need to do each week? And then daily, what do I need today to help move the needle towards my larger goal? And everything moves up and down if you look at that scale, depending on where you are in the year. Now, that seems overwhelming even with that. So I have several different tools that I use, looking at my time, several different tools that I use to help me. And again, you'll see this in the pictures. When I sit at my desk, to my left, I have a whiteboard. a dry erase whiteboard that I write. It's a calendar. It's a 12-month calendar where I can write in my goals and what I want to do, my schedule for my clients, and my big agenda items for each quarter. Then I have a planner that I use that allows me to create goals monthly. It has a benchmark weekly, and then it has a daily calendar that I have. And that's one of my books that I created because I need to be organized in order to do what I want to do. And none of the planners I saw did everything I wanted. And so I took what I knew and I combined them and made a planner that I live out of because it helps me stay on track. It helps me stay focused. That and Post-it notes. um, so that really helps me to stay focused. But in all of that, it also means being someone who is disciplined, who is shaped into who you want to be, who you need to be to do what you want to do. So I think it's important to take time, daily, really, to go through and create a list of things you want to do for the day, things you don't want to do for the day. Maybe you don't want to waste time on your phone. Maybe you don't want to get easily frustrated. Maybe you don't want to, put off doing something or other. So things you don't want to do, taking time to just reflect on a scripture that's going to help guide you for the day. At the end of the day, I like to go back and say, okay, what are my sins? What do I need to be forgiven of? What do I need to make sure that I repent of and don't engage in tomorrow? Maybe it's getting easily frustrated or not being relational, really being critical of my girls, being impatient with them. So what do I not want to do? Then looking at some gratitude, being able to stand back at the end of the day and say, wow, despite a disagreement with my husband in the morning, it overall was a really good day, and have that broader perspective as I move into the next day. And then so that's kind of the broad to specific. I have my planner. I have a goals binder that I use. And so my most recent thing was getting Girls on the Run program at my daughter's school. And that was a program that I had engaged in with my older daughter in Vermont and really enjoyed it. It's a program that helps the girls learn how to run a 5K, 3.1 miles over 12 weeks. We meet twice a week. And woven into that curriculum is lessons that help them to become engaging and creative young women. So it helps them with their self-image. It helps them with communication. It helps them with engaging in their community. And so I wanted my younger daughter to participate in something like that. There was not an existing program at her school. So I said to her, so when we moved back to Connecticut, I said, what about Girls on the Run? And she said, well, if you get it at my school, Mom, I'll do it. So I said, okay, challenge accepted. So I, took my goal, looked at my calendar. Okay, when is a good time to engage in Girls on the Run? And that fall season, given the timeline and the requirements, would be the best time. So started working backwards and looked and deconstructed the goal to see what I needed to do each week and each day to help us accomplish that. Who did I need to contact this week? Which teachers did I need to try to communicate with? The principal, how do I get in touch with the principal? What are the resources that I need? What meetings do I need to attend? So forth. And so, each week and then each month prior to was able to work towards the goal of setting up that program. And so last month we completed our my last season at her elementary school, and thankfully and happy to know now that as I move on to the middle school with my daughter, she moves to 6th grade, the program previously did not exist, but now is sustained through teachers, and the principal has agreed to be a coach next season. So I was very encouraged that, as I leave the program and the school, the program does not leave with me. So we'll see what that looks like when my daughter goes to the middle school. But for that, I had to, really kind of apply my different steps, break that apple down into my necessary bites and really execute to successfully have that program launched there. So that is, and then you say, well, why? Why do you do all this? Why do I have, all these little binders and planners? Why? because I want to do productivity God's way, right? And when you look at productivity God's way, it's done to glorify God with my gifts, talents, and abilities, maximize them, and then love and serve people around me. So that is, thank you.
Wow. Yeah. So you guys thought I was kidding when I put awesome in the text, just letting you know about the session today. So yeah, in my quiet time recently, one of the things that showed up two or three times was build, like, we have the gifts that we have so we can build up God's church. And I think Helen wrapped it up perfectly, which is, the reason we have these goals is not to be super busy or not to be bored. That's not, those are not, I mean, those are not good goals in and of themselves. The goal is to utilize what God has given us so we can build up his church, build up, his kingdom, help this world to be a better place. And in so doing, we become more of ourselves, I believe. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Helen may or may not be able to stick around.
Yep.
I know she's kind of at service right now. She will send me kind of her notes. So I'll send those out to you guys and you can see what helps. Very quickly, I know Helen's got to fly, but she started with goals and values. You got to know who you are. Then she has like 100 or so goals that she got from John Goddard. I think he's also mentioned in one of the first Chicken Soup for the Souls. She had a starting point, so from she was probably somewhere around 27 to probably 96 or 98. She kind of was somewhere around there. Grandma lived to 101, so she's ambitious, but she's, leaving some room there. So she has a lifeline, knowing she can't do everything at once, which I think is helpful to kind of spread it out. She knows there's rhythms in life, so she has some time with her kids. She's going to be dedicating more time to them, which falls right in line with her values as far as family. And then she knows she'll have time later to do certain things. She takes big, complicated things, breaks them down to annual goals to look at what she's going to get done that year. I love the annual calendar. I have two of them in my office here. Shows a whole year, quarterly, monthly. Created her own binder to help her go from broad to specific. So just incredible. I think Lou had her hand raised, and Monica will take just a couple questions only. We'll have more at the end, but we'll have a couple questions because I know Helen's going to have to go, so we'll have that, and then Lou's going to do her presentation.
Mom has her hand up, not me.
Oh, the other Lou. Okay, okay.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to let Helen know while we were on. Helen, that was a
Yeah.
great presentation. That's
Thank,
all. Have a
thank you.
blessed day. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah,
Thank
my
you.
mom is in witness protection, so you have to forgive her there. Monica is also in witness protection, kind of.
Uh, Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Helen, girl, why do I feel like I just listened to a TED Talk? Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing those things. I have to tell you, you are a part of an answered prayer because I was asking God, God, there's so many things that I want to get done. There's things that I want to do, and I need to organize. That's such a huge word, right? Organize. What does that look like? What is that supposed to how does that equate to what I can actually do? Thank you for thinking these things out as early as 27. Girl, at 27, what was I thinking about? Not organizing the way you do. Thank you so much for sharing all of those things with us today. And Atoma, you better be getting all the notes, glean all the information, and pass that along. Don't gatekeep a thing. And I am so incredibly happy to know you, Helen.
Mm.
Thank you for sharing your life with us like this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the session is recorded. So, and she will send her notes too. So, and I
Okay, so
think the
you got to
thing,
send a recording and the notes, right?
yes,
Okay, all
yes.
right.
And I think the thing also I will say that the last thing I'll say before Lou goes with her presentation is that you got to adapt. So that's one of the things maybe passed over us very quickly is like, Helen was like, well, there isn't a planner that works for me. So I'm going to adapt to what works for me to get done what I'm trying to get done. And I think the same thing, I think Helen's presented some great things, and I know Lou is up next. And I think the thing is, you got to take from what you see and make it work for you. So you can't just say, I'm going to take cookie cutter and just do it exactly. No, you have to make it work for you so that you can achieve the goals that you have for your life. And by the way, you then have to keep adjusting as you go. It's not because you set your plan down, it's done for the rest of your life. You need to keep adjusting week, day to day, week to week. How was it? I didn't get enough done. I got too much. I'm tired here. I need to. So that's what I would say. Without further ado, I give you my little sister, all the way from Ann Arbor, Michigan,
Bye.
formerly a Spartan. I just wanted to throw that in there in case there were some doubters when you see all this U of M logo. You on mute?
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to listen to my sister. That was just wonderful. Tom, I appreciate you bringing us all together. I'm going to go ahead and share my slides here. Let me know if you can see them. Can you see them yet?
We
I
can.
Okay.
can
Were you
see it.
putting them into a viewing mode? Is that what you're?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm Lou Edje, and I'm the Vice Dean of Medical Education at the University of Michigan, which means we have three different missions: taking care of patients, doing research, and teaching. And I'm in charge of teaching and making physicians, and also making sure that once they've graduated from our institution, that they're able to keep up with their medical education and their license and so on for lifelong learning. So, just to give a little bit of a picture, I was born in Iowa, so this beautiful space here. And after about a year, we went to South Central Africa and started to live in Malawi. Again, another absolutely beautiful place. And then spent a little bit of time in South America. And you can see I put this picture here. This is Shy Lou. I was one of the shyest kids, very quiet, scared of life in general, I think. Um, but then went on to Michigan State, as Otoma mentioned, for college, and subsequently am at the University of Michigan. This is my pictorial CV, and I'm only putting this up because there are a couple of pivots that I want to talk about. So got my MD in 1995 here at the University of Michigan, and then went into private practice for almost 13 years and was doing hospital leadership at 7A and 7P, was keeping my schedule fairly busy, was teaching on my half days off. Um, got to do a lot of leadership with other specialties apart from family medicine, and I was in charge of my department, was elected to represent all 700 physicians who rotated at the hospital seeing patients. But then it was 2011, and I really felt like I was not growing anymore. So for me, this is one of the themes for me in leadership and goals. If I'm not growing, then I need to pivot my goals so that I'm getting fulfillment. And we'll talk a little bit about growth happens at the edge of your comfort zone. So basically, I decided, you know what, I'm going to pivot back to my old training program where I was taught to be a family physician. And it just so happened that one of the roles of a family physician who's in that leadership role, teaching other physicians, is you have to teach the physicians who are teaching the physicians. So the faculty. So it just so happened that one of my faculty was my previous program director, the person who taught me. And so because I wanted to make sure I had something legitimate to teach him, I went ahead and went back and got a master's in health professions education, an additional degree in medical education, and did that role for teaching physicians for 8 years. And then my health system decided that it was too expensive to make physicians. We should buy them fully baked, so recruit them when they're done. And so they decided they were starting to close training programs. And there were three training programs. They closed two of them. And I said, you know what? I was at a hospital 10 minutes south. This is a primary care shortage area. We really ought to transfer this program. If you're not willing to keep it, let's transfer it. I said, I'll write a new program application. and I will talk to the other hospital leadership and let's transfer folks over. And so that's over the course of a year. We built a new building to the specs appropriate, and we were able to transfer between two competing hospitals. The hardest part was getting all 28 years of service at one hospital transferred into another hospital and recognized. But I did that, and I kicked the tires on on that program first year through. Decided, once they've graduated that first year worth of docs, then I'll go ahead and see what I can do with my master's in health professions education. And then University of Cincinnati was looking for a DIO, which is somebody who supports all programs across all specialties for training. And so they had 100 programs. I moved over to the University of Cincinnati just before the pandemic. And then Michigan decided, you know what, we want you back. So they asked me to throw my hat in the ring to be head of the Department of Family Medicine, but also to throw my hat in the ring for the role I have currently. And they said, see what happens. I know they're two different positions, but see what happens. And I was a little bit hesitant because they're very different positions. Yes, I'd been a department chair before, and I have a degree in medical education. I'm qualified for both, but it can be seen as a draw on institutional resources to be in two different searches, da da da. Anyway, I did 92 interviews and was a finalist for both positions and chose the dean position that I currently have. As you can see, I've been involved in advocacy across with the AMA, the American Medical Association, and involved with mentorship and advocacy all the way through. I hold a national elected position regarding education and medical education, and then also at the state level as well here in Michigan. We have 790 medical students, 1,300 house officers, which are in their specialty specific fields, and 3,500 docs who are having to keep up. And that's my bailiwick. I have 9 deans who report up to me in that space. We primarily deal with accreditation, advocacy for both human and material resources, and making sure that as we move the learners forward, that they move forward with good reflection of what their work was while they were with us. So I will say that lessons for me with that, success favors the prepared mind. And when I say prepared mind, that's a mind that sat with am I growing? A mind that sat with what direction does God want me to go? How will I be most helpful with the skills that I have acquired? Helen did mention Strength Finder and understanding who you are. What are your strengths? What are the gifts that God has given you that you can expand on? This book by Tom Rath is called Strength Finder 2.0, and it's something you can actually buy on Amazon. It's like $14. There's a test in the back of it, and it's a timed test. And the bottom line is, once you're done with the test, they tell you what your top 5 goals are. Or your top 5 strengths are. And so I am a learner. I am competitive with my former self. Like yesterday's Lou is old Lou. Let's be better. Input, I have a voracious appetite for new information and for changing and adapting how I am. I am focused, meaning I do my best work in chunks of time. That means that I have to schedule 8-hour stretches to really deeply dive into literature and things like that. And I'm an achiever. So again, I look for goals and I look to exceed them. This book tells you what your goals, what your strengths are, and tells you how to maximize those goals. So you're not spending a lot of time on things that you'll never be. I'll never be taller. Those types of things. The other thing I found extremely important, especially in this environment that we live in currently, is that on matters of style, swim with the tide, on matters of principle, stand like a rock, and really outlining the things that you stand on, that you will not waver. And so many of those things are guided by my upbringing in this family that I have and the foundation in Christianity that I have as well. So kindness, critically important. Hang on, my computer's giving me a little. It's not letting me advance. I'm not why. Hang on one second. There we go. So also, these are the 4 cornerstones for my leadership and my goal setting. Number 1, growth mindset. I pivoted from being in private practice, seeing patients most of the day, to being a teacher of physicians. I had to be in a mindset where yes, I can become a great educator, even though I'm 13 years behind folks who started in education right out of medical school. And so you pivot and you say, listen, I was receiving those learners. I have a completely different perspective. Um, and Master adaptive learner, again, adapting as you move forward. Humility, knowing that you have things that you absolutely don't know, things that you can learn. We had 11,165 applications for our 170 positions at our medical school. That's a huge number. A lot of these students come in with an MBA and all these other degrees before they become a medical student. There are things I can learn from them. And then lastly was resilience. And we'll talk about resilience in just a second. So for me, resilience is standing your ground when unexpected change happens. And for me, there are 3 Ps that I've developed here. So when the unexpected happens, protect your heart, ground yourself. Remember the things about you that God has given you, the things that give you your strength. Then pivot your energy. A lot of times when there's unexpected change, there's a lot of emotional energy, a lot of doubt, a lot of these things. So take that energy and pivot it into planning your future. As I went through the 92 interviews to get to the role that I have, these are things that I wrote down as my North Stars as far as my leadership. So I made this graphic and I used it all through the 7 months of interview process just to make sure that I was grounding myself in the things that I think are critically important. I won't read all of those, but we'll definitely send the slides for you. A growth mindset is failure is an opportunity to grow. I'm always thinking that. It is not who I am. My failure doesn't define me. I can learn anything I want to. Challenges help me to grow. I welcome that. Feedback. A lot of people don't like to hear feedback. Feedback is the breakfast of champions, even if it's high fiber. Also, the magic happens outside of your comfort zone. This diagram for me is really important. So when I went from training physicians to the job that I have at Cincinnati, I was actually training 18 physicians. At Cincinnati, I was training 700 physicians across all specialties. I put on my seatbelt to be outside my comfort zone and let God do the rest. He gave me all the tools that I needed to move forward. So again, this graphic is really important. If you feel safe and in control, that's probably a place where you're not growing. Fear should never be part of your decision-making process, but sometimes being uncomfortable is really important. The growth zone is the best place to be, where you're setting new goals, where you're realizing aspirations, where you're living the dreams that you have. One of my dreams was to give MDs. Like, I confer on you the degree Doctor of Medicine. For me, that's an important thing because doctors can impact so many lives. In fact, I call it catalytic impact. They will impact many patients. And if they teach, then they will impact many physicians and so on. So making critical decisions, this is a graphic that I use. It's the simplest thing. It's 4 questions. So what is the best if I do this, best if I don't, worst if I do this, worst if I don't? And so it's more granular than a pro-con list. It really helps me to decide, should I take this job? Will this give glory to God? Will this help me to grow? Also, and there's a great song by Michael Kiwanuka, and the line in it is, no one can steal the things that God has given me. For me, that's really important. So it's like, no, you cannot take from me the things that God has given me. So hold fast and move forward with certainty in that space. This is another thing that I do. I start each day with an empty cup of gratitude and I refill it. So coming into today, imagine I had nothing and put in it that I have an awesome brother, I have an awesome sister, another awesome sister, a mother, a family, a house over my head, food, and so I add to my cup every single day anew. For me, that inspires gratitude in my heart. I also make opportunities for me to use some of the skills that God has given me that I enjoy doing. I do calligraphy. So I carry calligraphy cards and pens in my purse at all times. They are 40 in a pack for $6 from Michael's. And everyone I meet gets one of these with a note on the back of them in their favorite color. And yes, 2 days ago, I gave 175 MDs Sanjay Gupta from CNN was there. Our CEO was there showing off his patches. For me, that is something that was an opportunity for me to do. And so I'm going to stop there and I'll take questions because I think sometimes questions are easier and more personal than presentations.
I'll go ahead. Wow, wow. So I think there's two threads. The first for Helen, like health was the common thread for her. For Lou, the common thread is medical education, and so forth. And so I think that some of you may or may not know, but my dad passed away a few years back, and when we were growing up, he said Lou really loved art, and so my dad said, "No child of mine will be an artist." So Lou stopped doing art, and instead she became a doctor who gives confers doctorates on other doctorates, but she still does art on the side. So I think it's been really cool to see just everything that you shared about. A few things I'll wrap up very, very quickly that stood out to me, and then we'll have people share. You mentioned success favors a prepared mind, and I think one of the things that stood out to me with that was, you requested, I remember this, like a mentor that would challenge you to make sure that you could grow because you felt like you were not growing enough. And at that point, I mean, most people would be like, "I've arrived," and you were like, "Yeah, no, I still have more growth to have, that needed to happen." And that was before your current position. So you're like, no, if God can allow me to keep advancing and doing more things, I definitely want to do that. So I think that was awesome. You mentioned your top five strengths. This is similar to what Helen mentioned. Knowing who you are, so learner, competition, input, focus, and achiever. So you were able to know yourself. You also had four cornerstones: growth mindset, master adaptive learner, humility, and resilience. You mentioned the 92 interviews. I can't even conceptualize over 7 months. I'm like, one interview, 92 interviews got you to where you are. But I also think what I think was crucial was what you said, magic happens outside my comfort zone. And you gave the graphic with kind of concentric circles that was kind of bound one way. You were, at one point overseeing 18 doctors and physicians and teaching them to 700. And I can imagine the insecurity a person could feel like, I'm okay teaching one person or two or something like that. But like to go from 18 to 700, you better know your stuff and you better be very secure in what you have. And I think having that mindset of humility is huge, knowing that, hey, someone could know something more than me or whatever, that's fine. But this is where I'm going. This is who I am. And so, like I said, I think you did just an incredible, incredible job. Thank you for taking time. We're going to have Monica, if it's okay with you. I'll have my mom go next and then Monica.
Hello, Louito. Hello, everyone.
Still in
Hi,
Whitsock.
Mom.
I just wanted to say thank you, thank you, thank you. My goodness. You had a wonderful, wonderful presentation. Take care,
Thank
my
you.
love.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
dear. Bye.
Oh, man. Monica?
Okay. Hey, y'all.
Hey.
Lou, thank you so much.
Thank
I am
you.
really glad that this is being recorded because I am going to be gleaning everything both you and Helen said. The one
Thank
thing
you.
that I wanted to um, just say, I like I don't look at it necessarily as an analogy, but it's a great picture of an empty cup, and filling that cup up with gratitude. That is something that, if you want to talk about keeping yourself humble, that is key to just being able to look at all the things that you can be grateful for. Second, girl, you taught how many in Ohio? 700 and who? Listen, trying to teach the one son that I have was a challenge. We're talking about 700 people that, number one, you didn't give birth to them, you don't know them, and you can't control how they think or what they want to think or anything like that. but you're teaching them, girl. Kudos, okay? I mean,
It's all
incredible.
God. It's all
Incredible.
God.
Listen, it would have to be because there's no way. Um, and the adage has always been you can't teach grown folks anything unless they want to learn it. So clearly they
Right.
wanted to learn from you. So there it is. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Lou. I appreciate you, hon.
I'll add
Thank
one
you.
one last thing in case anyone else wants to share, and we'll probably pivot a little bit more into just goals in general. But before Lou has, I think she may have something to share, is one thing that Lou also does along with her team is they also provide accreditation to colleges and universities, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Lou. So they go through and they make sure that these organizations are actually adhering to the standards to make sure that healthcare is provided in those institutions correctly. Is that just to be clear, is that correct, Lou?
Yeah, so I'm the chair of the Family Medicine Review Committee for the ACGME, which basically means there are 1,300 programs across the country that train family physicians. My group is in charge of making sure that each of them is training each family physician the way they should. We also set the standards on how you train, how many babies you have to deliver before you can deliver one on your own, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Uh,
And
to- Go
I
ahead.
think that's amazing because I think for me the thing that I was thinking as you were sharing is we appreciate institutions that do well and all these kinds of things. But I think there's also a point that we can actually become institutions ourselves, where in a humble way, obviously, but where we can actually be like so beneficial to society that we're almost like institutions. And I think you are in some senses like an institution where you have, mastered a number of things that you're very, very beneficial and very helpful to society as a whole. So I'll leave that
Thank
there.
you.
Did you want to say
Can
something,
I?
Lou? Yes.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to say, just briefly a story. Yes, at the end of February, I got woken up at 2 a.m. by an explosion in my house. And for me, resilience is gratitude all the way and thinking of the silver linings. So first of all, I was not in Mexico on vacation, all right, which I was 2 weeks prior. So gratitude right there. Number two, I woke up. So now I'm already six hours ahead of the disaster. Number three, I walk toward the laundry room and there's water pouring from the light sockets. I walk into the garage because there's a walk up above my garage with a full bathroom. There was water pouring onto my car. So I get into my car, I pull the car out. Number three, the garage door contraption had not fallen on my car. I slosh up the wet stairs and the toilet tank had exploded with the different temperatures in Michigan. Number five, the insurance company was not going to cover the toilet, but they covered $36,000 worth of damage. There are five blessings in that potential tragedy. And take drinking and every time seeing the silver lining, there's always a silver lining. Things could always have been worse. So I bring this with gratitude. This is not a disaster. This is many things that went right.
Hmm. Yeah, I think having a mindset like that allows you to weather many storms because there's a lot of tragedies and craziness. So anyway, without further ado, I'm actually going to stop recording right now, so we can just have some conversation, as is. So.